I don't wanna be the boy that runs in the back. I don't wanna be the kid that falls in the dark. All I really want to be is the guy that gets that girl.
Welcome to the AJ Steele Show. We discuss politics, sex, money, and everything in between. And now, here's your host, an immigrant, a self-made millionaire, an American, AJ Steele.
Everything I say and do, I'm just not good enough for you. I don't wanna be the boy that runs in the back.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Your comments reflect the despicable nature of your character, hate and fear of our foreign service officers, and desperation to protect your corrupt and criminal acts. Your efforts to intimidate will fail. May your downfall be swift, your penalty onerous, and your legacy condemned by all.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Wow, these are some pretty big words. And no, they're not the words of Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, all the ancient biblical prophets of doom who warned the kings of Israel of God's wrath. These are not even the words of the prophet of Islam, Muhammad, a man who lived by the sword and hated all non-Muslims. These are none other but the words of John Brennan, the former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, the former boss of the CIA under President Obama. Welcome to another episode of the AJ Steele Show. I'm so happy to have all of you with us. We've had some major, amazing developments in the last few days. Our show just reached the top 40, number 37 as a matter of fact, of all podcasts in the United States of America. And for that, I want to thank all of you, our great fans and followers. And I want to remind you to keep spreading the word, keep subscribing, and keep listening to our show. All of us here at the AJ Steele Show are absolutely humbled by the outpouring of support and goodwill from our many listeners and fans. And for that, I'd like to thank you again from the bottom of my heart. But before we get fat and lazy and full of self-congratulations, let's talk a little bit about today's show. It's going to be an interesting one. A lot of you have been watching the impeachment, but along with this phony sham impeachment, we're hearing that many of President Trump's associates are being jailed or being investigated by the FBI, by the dark forces of the deep state. We just heard that Roger Stone was convicted of 7 very serious crimes, including lying to Congress. We know about General Flynn, and we know about Paul Manafort, who's rotting away in prison. And now we also hear that the FBI is investigating America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, one of President Trump's greatest champions. So who's next? President Trump? Secretary Pompeo? Maybe the Attorney General, Bill Barr? How about political commentator Michael Savage? Or Tucker Carlson? Or what about Alex Jones or anyone that supports President Trump and is outside the box? Who's next? Is it me? Or is it you for listening to me? Or for paying attention to other people who might not follow the party line? What happened to justice in our country? Is it blind? Is it one-sided? Is justice dead? Or have we become just a banana republic? A banana republic where justice only belongs to the rich and to the powerful, to the globalist swamp. But what does this all mean to us patriots? Am I too worried? Am I freaking out about it? Should you worry? I don't really think so. I think a hard rain is going to fall. I think the big reckoning is coming. And all of these people, all the swamp, all the crooks, all the anti-American globalists, they're all shaking in their boots. Don't for one second forget that there's a lot of investigations that are about to come out, specifically about the misconduct of the fake Russia investigation. Don't forget that these are very serious inquiries by very serious people, and they're about to come out. Inspector General Michael Horowitz, the IG, he has a report coming out about the Russia investigation misconduct, and is going to name names, and he's going to call some people to be prosecuted. And that's a good thing. And that's why the Democrats are flipping out. They're throwing everything and anything, including the kitchen sink, at President Trump. And you know what? He's taking a couple of blows here and there, but he's still standing. But even more important, don't forget that Attorney General William Barr and his bulldog investigator John Durham are currently investigating the origins of the special counsel probe into Russian interference. That's Mueller. They're looking to see what Mueller did. They're looking to see what Comey did. They're looking to see what Brennan did. And they're looking to see what Clapper did. All of these heads of intelligence of America, they're going to be on a hot seat very soon. But don't forget, they all worked for one man. And that man happens to be Barack Hussein Obama. He's at the top of the list. Him and Hillary Clinton and John Kerry and that nasty Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler, they're all being looked at. And if there's any kind of a true crime, you know that William Barr will find it. You know that his bulldog, John Durham, is not going to hold back. And that's why they're freaking out. These immoral crooks are doing everything in their power to obfuscate the truth, to throw a smokescreen, to try to attack and destroy President Trump before he gets them. That's the game. So don't fear. Don't be so scared. They're not winning. These devils are in their death throes. They're just like a wounded animal lashing out, scratching, clawing, biting with everything it has. But they're going to lose because the truth will always come out in the end. The truth is always the truth, and it doesn't matter how many lies you tell, how many stories you make up, how many fake, false witnesses you put up in the House impeachment. It's a sham, and it's not going to work. You know, I started this whole conversation today with the evil, dark words of John Brennan, the disgraced and fired former head of the CIA. But I want to end this segment with other words that are much more important, from St. Timothy. But understand this, he said, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid such people. Wow. Now, I'm not a very religious man, and I'm not even a religious scholar, but these words describe the Democratic Party and the supplicant media perfectly. The evil Democratic Party that's willing to destroy this whole country so they can hold on to power and their money and continue unabated with their greed. I am not a deeply religious man, but there's another saying I'd like to bring up before we close this segment. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. But will the Democrats ever pay for the nasty, illegal coup they launched against President Trump? Will they ever pay for their treachery? Will they ever pay for all the division and anger and hatred they've caused in this country? All of that remains to be seen. This is the AJ Steele Show. We will be right back.
All I really want to be is the guy that gets the girl.
The AJ Steele Show. Think of your loudmouth best friend, hated by all the wives, because he tells it just like it is.
You finally see your love belongs to me.
Welcome back to the AJ Steele Show. When I heard that Roger Stone got convicted of 7 crimes, he is the political consultant who helped get President Trump elected. He helped President Reagan, President Nixon. He was a guy who was known as a trickster in politics. He's not the most beloved guy in the world, but he's also not the worst guy in the world. For certain, he's no worse than any of the Democrats that are out there masquerading as virtuous people and helping the Democrat Party win elections. In other words, the Democratic operatives are just as bad and probably a lot worse than he ever was, but he's a conservative and he just got indicted and found guilty of several offenses, including lying to Congress and witness tampering. And as you well know, only Democrats can do all of those things and get away with them. So then I went on the AJ Steele Show Twitter account and I wrote the following words. I wrote, not a huge Roger Stone fan, But what's been done to him, General Flynn, Paul Manafort, and now Giuliani, and eventually Trump and all conservatives, is a travesty. Our country and courts are now officially a banana republic swamp. Wake up, good Americans, before it's too late. Our liberty is at stake. Those were my feelings after I heard about the conviction, and I still feel that way. Now, am I saying that Roger Stone is a perfect human being? Am I saying that Paul Manafort is a great person? No, I think they're just political operatives, and they're just like all political operatives from both sides. But the question is justice being applied equally to both sides? It seems to me like Democrats can just make up things, lie, act in treachery, and behave in a seditious or treasonous way, and nothing ever happens to them. They don't get indicted. They don't pay any price for their lies. Adam Schiff, for example, lied to the Congress just a few days ago in front of the whole country, in front of TV cameras and internet cameras and Congress. He said that he doesn't know who the so-called whistleblower is. What a liar. This little Napoleon, this little mentally ill Adam Schiff admitted a few weeks ago that the so-called whistleblower met with his staff. This whistleblower, who we think is called Eric Ciaramella, an intelligence officer who's specializing in Russia and Ukraine, he actually met with Adam Schiff's staff, and the staff actually helped him with forming and writing the whistleblower complaint. So how is it that Adam Schiff doesn't know who the whistleblower is? That's a lie. He is a liar. Why isn't he being indicted for lying? And what about the lie he told the whole country when he made up the script of the call between President Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine? Little bug-eyed wannabe Napoleon Adam Schiff sat there in front of the whole world, the cameras, and Congress, and made up a whole conversation between the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine. Isn't that lying to Congress, or does that not count? Where's all the indictments? Where's all the self-righteous media? Where's all the people screaming to high heaven that he lied to Congress in America? Why isn't he being indicted? I'm sick of it. And what about crooked Hillary? Lying nonstop, destroying her emails, lying about Benghazi, lying about her pedophile husband, lying about that sicko Anthony Weiner and his Muslim wife, Huma Abedin, who also happens to be Hillary Clinton's personal assistant. Why isn't Hillary in prison? Why isn't she being indicted? What's going on with this country? And forget Hillary. Let's talk about some more. How about Obama when he lied to all of us saying if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor? How about all the fast and furious drug dealings that he did in South America? How about the pallets of cash he sent to that terrorist country, Iran? Not a word, not a peep from the media, not a peep from any kind of prosecutor. These people can just go through life, they can do whatever they want, and they get book deals, and they get Netflix deals, not prison. Millions and millions of dollars. That's what they get. Not incarceration, but awards and platitudes from our media. What is wrong with our system? Now, let's go further. What about James Comey, who lied about his meetings with President Trump and leaked classified intelligence to the media? What about James Clapper? What about Peter Strzok and his lover Lisa Page? What about that disgraced liar Andrew McCabe? And what about that gorilla-faced SOB Brennan? Ooh, I hate this John Brennan character. A man whose face is so ugly, but as ugly as it is, it's second only to the ugliness of his heart. His black, evil, America-hating heart. Will they ever pay for all their witness tampering and lies to Congress? Will they? Will Christine Blasey Ford, that infantile so-called professor who lied about Judge Kavanaugh raping her when she was 14? She's a star now. She just got an award from the ACLU. She became a millionaire by lying, by distorting, by destroying the name of a very honorable family man and a judge, a Supreme Court justice. How come she's not paying for it? She's living it up. She lied. All those other women lied. Where are all of these lying whores? They're not in prison. They're free. And Roger Stone is in prison? General Flynn, an honorable hero, an American hero who fought for our country, he could be headed for lockup? The FBI is investigating Rudy Giuliani? Why? What's his crime? That he supported President Trump? Or the fact that he's called America's mayor and he cleaned up that filthy rat hole, New York City? Is that it? Is that why the liberal scum wants to put him in jail? You know, we have a two-tier justice system. It's not even a two-tier justice system. It's a one-tier justice system. Anyone who supports President Trump and makes a mistake, or even if he doesn't make a mistake, ends up being indicted and going to prison. And yet the liberals, the Democrats, they're impervious to any kind of punishment or even oversight at this point. They can get away with murder practically. They get away with everything. And there's no one prosecuting them. It really seems like the globalist swamp and the lapdogs, including the Democratic Party and the media, they've become the judge, the jury, and the executioner of all conservatives and the few good people in this country that still live by religious virtue or follow a moral code. These godless liberals are now playing God and judging any poor soul who might dare to support President Trump. And the last time I checked, there's at least 63 million of us out there. There's an old Roman saying in Latin that goes something like this. Quis custodiet ipsos custodes? You know what it means? Who watches the watchman? Who oversees the overseer? So all of you out there, my dear audience, all of you patriotic Americans, tell me, who's overseeing the Democratic Party? Who's overseeing our media? Our slanderous, lying, fake news media? Is it Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General? Is it William Barr, the Attorney General? Is it the Supreme Court? Let's hope so. Let's hope there's someone out there on our side. Let's hope there's someone out there on the side of truth and justice. Someone who is there for the American people, the American voters, not the elites, not the globalists from other countries, just the hard-working, tax-paying American people. Let's just hope someone is watching the watchers. Because if that doesn't happen soon, all will be lost. Our republic, the way we know it, will be over. When we get back from our break, I want to change the pace a little bit and talk about a man who has inspired me ever since I was 8 years old. He was a real man, a true pioneer. He was a writer, he was an adventurer, and he embodied more than anyone I know the spirit of living life to the fullest. Whenever I'm down or feeling sorry for myself, I always think of his words. Life is not always a matter of holding good cards, but sometimes playing a poor hand well. I hope you stick around and listen. This is the AJ Steele Show.
You're listening to the AJ Steele Show, where no topic is off limits, no discussion too harsh, no truth more true. The AJ Steele Show, we tell it like it is.
All I really want to be is a guy that gets the girl. All I really want to be.
Welcome back to the AJ Steele Show. The other day, Mrs. Steele and I, we did one of our daily hikes. And this time we went to a wonderful place, one of my favorite places on earth. It's called Jack London State Park, right between Napa County and Sonoma County, the two best wine-producing regions in all of America. And it's a beautiful place, very pastoral, lots of vineyards, lots of trees, redwood trees, madrone, wonderful oak trees. But there's something very special about that place that is a lot deeper than just the hike. It's the former home of Jack London, the great self-made American writer, a man who wrote such classics as The Call of the Wild and The Sea Wolf and White Fang, to name a few. He was just a great author. He wrote beautiful short stories, beautiful novels, and he became very, very successful. He was an adventurer. He was a newspaper correspondent for wars. He was a farmer, a sailor, a world traveler. He was truly America's version of a Renaissance man. He just did everything he could. He was one of those guys that took the bull by the horn. He totally embraced life, and that's why I admire him so much. But how did he get started? He was born in 1876 in San Francisco. He never met his father in his lifetime because the father apparently left before he was even born, and his mother attempted suicide because of it. And then he was raised by a black lady. She was a wet nurse for him, and she was his inspiration. And then this young man who was very, very poor started working in the factories by age 11. And he hated it. He hated the hard work. He hated all that strife. He hated what he saw as mediocrity and a dead-end career. And so he used to go to the library, and he met a wonderful librarian over there who taught him how to read and write and opened his mind to wonderful books and adventures. And then he became a thief. He became an oyster thief in the San Francisco Bay, in the Oakland, San Francisco Bay area. He bought a little boat, and he raided oysters. And then when his boat sank because he wasn't seaworthy anymore, he joined an early version of the San Francisco Bay Area Coast Guard, what was back then known as the Fish Patrol. And what he did there was protect the fishermen from the kind of thieves that he just stopped being when his boat sank. And all of this before the age of 15. Can you think of any 15-year-olds today doing that? Most 15-year-olds I know, they sit around and play video games all day, or they watch TV, or they're busy taking stupid selfies and sending them on Instagram to all their buddies. That's most 15-year-olds today. But this guy wasn't done. He then started attending UC Berkeley. This is a guy with minimal education. He couldn't afford to finish Berkeley, so he never graduated. But throughout the time, ever since he was a kid, he used to hang out and get drunk in a bar called Heinhold's First and Last Chance Saloon. It's an old sailor bar from the 1800s that is still there in Oakland, California, right there on the bay. So yes, he drank a lot. He was a wild guy. He was a rough and tumble kind of kid. He wasn't any kind of an angelic kid. But he had the kind of spirit that America used to have and is lacking now. He had the spirit of adventure. He had the spirit of finding new things and creating new things and succeeding. He didn't sit around and whine like most kids today about how horrible things are. He went out and made an amazing life for himself. By the age of 18, he was shoveling coal, and he ended up in New York being arrested for vagrancy, where he spent 30 days in jail. And by the age of 19, he was reading really deep books by Nietzsche and Darwin and Marx and all the great philosophers. And he started hanging out with intellectuals in San Francisco. And he wrote and he wrote and he wrote, and he got rejected. No one cared for his writing. And then by the age of 21, he took a ship. He became a sailor, and he went all the way to Alaska, to the Klondike, to find gold. But he didn't find any gold there, just scurvy. But he didn't just sit around and feel sorry for himself. He wrote down about all of his experiences, about all the men that he met there, all these rough and tumble sailors, and all the gold prospectors. And then, at the age of 23, one of his short stories was published, and he got a fee of $5. And he kept writing and writing and getting rejected. And by the age of 27, he wrote his biggest hit, the book he's most famous for, The Call of the Wild. And he sold all the rights to that book for $2,000. Must have been a lot of money back then, $2,000. But this book sold millions and millions of copies and became one of the most popular books of all time. I also have to mention that Mr. Jack London considered himself a socialist. He was a member of the Socialist Party. But everything he did was so anti-socialism. He worked harder. He was innovative. He started making money. He was a strict individualist. But he had a good heart, and he felt for the workers of America. So even though he called himself a socialist, his life story and success is the complete opposite of socialism. He ran for mayor of Oakland on a socialist ticket, and he got 981 votes. That's when he was 29. And then this young so-called socialist decided to buy a 129-acre ranch in Glen Ellen, the same place Mrs. Steele and I just visited. Over the years, he expanded the land, and it became over 1,200 acres. And he worked there as a farmer, and he kept writing books. But there was a fire burning in him, and it wasn't enough for him just to sit there and enjoy all of his money. Because at this point, he was one of the richest people in the United States of America. This young boy who never had a father grew up to be the most famous writer in the whole United States of America and actually the world. He became an international star, and he made a lot of money. Back then, in a world that didn't have any CD players or MP3 players or TVs or internet or even Joe Biden's favorite, record players, back then, an author was the most famous person on earth. He was like a superstar. His books sold in the millions, in the tens of millions, and made him a celebrity all over the world. At the age of 30, he had an amazing yacht, a 45-foot yacht called the Snark built. And him and his new wife, this is his second wife, his first wife he had 2 kids with, but she was too boring and regular for him, so he married this wild, sexual woman, a bohemian and a real trendsetter of that era, a woman named Charmian. And this woman was a real tiger who basically hung out and slept with all the A-listers of that era. She was unrestrained and sexually liberated. You can imagine, 1906. They didn't exactly have the woman's rights yet, but this woman, she just knocked his socks off in every way. And she was just as unrestrained and adventurous as he was. And they take this amazing cruise around the world for 2 years. They go to Hawaii, where they visit a leper colony. And then he actually learns how to surf. He's one of the first white people in America that learns how to surf. And then they go to Marquise Islands and Tahiti and Bora Bora and Fiji and Samoa and the Solomon Islands. An amazing trip that was supposed to last for 7 years. But then Jack London falls ill. And he's so deadly sick that they have to come back to America. And here in America, he's in a hospital for 5 weeks trying to get better. And he comes back to his beautiful ranch in Glen Ellen, in a place called the Valley of the Moon. And throughout the whole time, he's writing and getting published. In 1913, Jack London is 37 years old. He may be broken physically, but his spirit still soars. This year is his best financial year ever, and he starts building his dream house, a mansion he was going to call the Wolf House. A 17,000 square foot home built from massive California volcanic rock and redwood logs. Jack London even said, "I am building my dream house on my dream ranch. My house will be standing, God permitting, for 1,000 years." Unfortunately, God did not agree. The house was burned down a few days before Jack and his wife Charmian were supposed to move in. And the loss of this house devastated Jack London financially, but more importantly, spiritually and emotionally. He never recovered from the loss of his dream home. And he starts sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss of alcoholism. The next book he writes is called John Barleycorn. It becomes the Bible of the Prohibition movement. It was written as a semi-biography of a true alcoholic. And he talks about how horrible alcohol is. Sadly, Jack London, this towering figure of American literature and the American spirit, lived for only 3 more years after the Great Fire that destroyed his beloved Wolf House. In 1916, at the age of 40, he was discovered in a coma on the floor of his bedroom. The first doctor that came in saw 2 vials of morphine, completely empty, beside him. That first doctor thought it was suicide. The next 2 doctors that came in felt it was an overdose. He's been gravely ill with kidney pain due to his alcoholism and other maladies. And they felt that he overdosed on the morphine, trying to get relief from his excruciating pain. The official report said that he died of kidney failure after 14 hours of agony. I guess we will never know the real truth. Did he kill himself? Did he overdose? Or was he murdered? But either way, America and the world lost an amazing spirit. And you can actually go visit the cottage and the room and see the bed where he died. This legendary American, this amazing human being, achieved more in 40 short years of life than most of us achieve in a full lifetime. I have a favorite quote of his that I keep in my office, and I kept with me throughout my lifetime. He goes like this: "I would rather be ashes than dust. I would rather that my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than it should be stifled by dry rot. I would rather be a superb meteor, every atom in me in magnificent glow, than a sleepy and permanent planet. The function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days trying to prolong them. I shall use my time." So where are these men? Where did they all go? How did we turn to a nation of whiners instead of a nation of doers? What happened to our country? I'm sure these kind of men and women are out there still. but they need to stand up and be counted and be heard. Our nation, our dignity, our morality, and our continued survival all depend on it. This is the AJ Steele Show. Take care.
All I really want to be is a guy that gets the girl. All I really want to be. All I really want to be is a guy that gets the girl.
The AJ Steele Show. Copyrighted 2019.